Hey, Bulldogs, Mr. Mack here. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. Excited and hopeful about all the great things that are going to happen here at Kashmir High School in this year, but also reflecting back on some of the things that we worked on in the fall, in particular, our development of the Bulldog Way. As you'll see in the classrooms, we've published. Special thanks to Mr. Pace, who did the artwork surrounding the Bulldog Way, documentation of the 6 fundamental habits of mind that we think are essential to our success here at Kashmir High School. And over the course of the next couple of months, we're going to be dedicating time, not only in advisory, but through the announcements and activities in classrooms, to reinforcing, elevating in our minds each of these fundamental habits of mind that we think and agree are successful, not only or essential to our academic success, but to our personal and professional success going forward. So today we're going to start with the empathetic listeners. And our commitment was that we'll listen with empathy, value others' input, and commit to team decisions. Just by way of refresh, empathetic listeners acknowledge the feelings and attitudes of those with whom they communicate without judgment. So that means surrendering your time, your attention, and responsiveness to ensure that the person that you're communicating with feels heard. Stephen Curry, who's a leader in professional success, written a number of books, says, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I really think that encapsulates what it is that we have to be empathetic listeners. It's such an essential part of communication and such an essential part of making yourself a meaningful part of any community that you're working in. So what I've got here on the screen for you is sort of a continuum from very self-centered participation in a conversation as a listener to a more collaborative, intuitive, and selfless role as a listener in a conversation. And again, it's not unusual for us to think about ourselves when other people are speaking, but to truly be an empathetic listener, it means surrendering yourself, really giving that space and time to the person that's communicating. So if you take a look at the left side of the continuum, you can see that you're hearing words and not taking them in. You're only thinking about them in the context of yourself, or maybe you're so distracted by the things that are consuming your time that you're not really even hearing what it is that the person is saying. You're just participating as passively as possible. But as we kind of move through that continuum, you can see there's empathetic components built into that, seeing where it is that you see connection or possible relationship to things that the person is saying, thinking about the things that they're saying in the context of your own experience, and moving towards where I think we're trying to get, which is in that middle to right side of the continuum. We're paying attention to the person, we're offering information or advice, to big shifts where we're really surrendering ourselves and saying, I'm going to give you this time to listen very attentively and carefully. I'm going to remove any kind of distractions from the situation so that I can give you my full attention and affirm whatever it is that you're feeling in the moment, be it frustration, happiness, joy, anger, and just acknowledge that in you so that that person with whom you're communicating feels attended to. And again, we'll talk today about some strategies that I think can help move us towards that right side of the continuum, where we're increasingly more in tune with the person with whom we're communicating. What you see here on this list is a collection of obstacles to being a good listener. And I just want you to take a moment to kind of look through some of those and see if you can identify either circumstances, examples of things that maybe you find yourself guilty of in conversations or when you're in a communication circumstance with another person, be it an adult, in a classroom, a professional in your world of work, or one of your peers as a part of the collaborations that you're doing either in or outside a classroom, or in your extracurricular activities. So just take a quick look at that list of 21 barriers to good listening and see if you can identify with any of them or multiple. again, we're going to have this available for you. Your teachers can take advantage of the opportunity to stop the video and give you some time to kind of look through these things if you like. But really what we want to do is kind of draw attention to some of the things that either consciously or unconsciously we do that undermine communication with people that we are interacting with. And I think sometimes just by drawing attention to the many obstacles or barriers to good listening, we can eliminate some of those barriers in our conversations daily. So the big question is, how can we improve as listeners? Number one, and I'm going to give you 3 things here. Number one, removing internal and external distractions. What are internal distractions? They can be things like your own sense of time in your head. If you feel like you've only got a limited amount of time or there's something that's a priority to you. But honestly, when you gets down to it, if someone just needs 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of your time, and you feel like you've got that time, if you can just surrender that time, that becomes less of a distraction. Any other thoughts or priorities that are occupying your mind? And sometimes we're not in a space to be good listeners, but I think that's a time when we can actually acknowledge to our peers, hey, I'm not in a good place to do this right now, but I definitely want to give your attention. Maybe we could talk later. And then finally is your interest and investment in the person speaking. And I'll say this, I do think being an empathetic listener is one of my strengths, but I will be the first to say that it's not necessarily a strength with everyone. There are people that I want to be an empathetic listener for, and I'm sure you feel the same way. But there are other people that I don't necessarily give that consistent attention to. And that's a place where I'm going to be working hard in the new year, is on being consistent in the quality of the attention that I give the people who are communicating with me. So that interest or investment, I think, is a critical internal distraction. And I think surrendering that and just giving a person a moment is one of the greatest gifts that you can give in your daily interactions. External distractions, environmental, being in a place where you can actually give someone your attention. Electronic devices, obviously the phone can be a huge distraction if you're a place where there's screens. If you're in a restaurant and there's a football game on, obviously it's going to be more challenging to give your attention to a person. Or if you're working, maybe just putting down your screen and saying like, hey, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and make sure that I give you attention. And I think always in the world of our social lives, that there are people who are competing for your attention too. And how you measure and balance the attention that you give to your friends is a measure of your friendship in some ways. So again, these are some things that fundamentally we can do is eliminate both these internal and external distractions towards giving the person that you're communicating with your full attention. Giving full attention can involve body language as well. And again, my wife will say this, that I'm someone who can very easily be read in terms of my body language, my eye contact, expressions on my face that measure very clearly my investment or interest in a conversation that I'm having. So making quality eye contact with the person, using expressions that acknowledge your investment in what it is that they're saying, and any body language that's open as compared to closed. Something as simple as kind of folding your arms when someone is talking sends a message that you're shut off and not as invested in what it is that they're saying as if you're open and leaning into that conversation. So food for thought. And finally, offering responses that affirm the situation from their perspective. So mirroring feelings. If someone's excited about something, share that excitement with them, affirm that excitement. If they're frustrated, acknowledge their frustration. Resisting the temptation to judge or evaluate what someone's saying and putting it on some sort of a scale one way or the other. Ask clarifying questions that include the language that they've used so that they know that you've been listening attentively, especially if you're giving that language back to them. And then looking for verbal and nonverbal cues to guide your responses. Sometimes people can be saying one thing, but their body language is telling you something else. And if you can see a discrepancy between those two things and very gently or carefully call that out to draw attention, to probe a little bit to see if you can kind of understand what's really at the heart of what the person is talking about, is a testament to your attentive listening. So again, those nonverbal clues are as essential to what it is that the person is saying in some cases, and your attention to that is a measure of the quality of your listening. So a few things that I want you to think about and jot down today One is, who is a person who really listens to you when you need them to? And I'm hopeful that you have multiple people who fit that category for you. If you don't know that, as adults in the building, we're here ready and willing, able to listen to you. And we want you to be affirmed, and we need you to know that there are people here who are willing to listen. So maybe just identify some of those people who you consider to be really good empathetic listeners, whether it's a teacher, a friend, a family member. Naming those people and letting those people know that that's who they are to you, I think can be really powerful. Who's a person that you really listen to when they need you to? And again, who the role that that person plays in your life in terms of friendships, relationships, I think that's really critical information. It's important that you have someone that you feel that strongly about as well, that if they've got a concern, that you're there for them, because I think there's a lot of power in that relationship. And finally, and I think this is the most important question that I have to ask, is who's a person that needs you to be that listener for them? I think as we go through our daily interactions, I think it's important to be extremely conscious of people who need more from us, and the responsibility that comes in relationships, whether they're academic, personal, or professional relationships that we have. So my goals for you as we work through this year, and we'll be offering up strategies, ideas, reinforcements about empathetic listening during the course of the year, is that you grow not only in your consciousness of who it is that you are as a listener in communications with your peers, with adults, with people outside of the school community, but that it become a strength for you as well, because I think it's certainly an asset, not only academically, but socially and professionally as well. Hey, that's the first foundation of success for the Bulldog Way. Proud of all of your work so far this year. Encouraged by the way that you've fought through the various obstacles towards success. Excited about the future here at Kashmir, and wanted to share with you my thoughts on being an empathetic listener. Have a great day, Bulldogs.